Hi, my name is Dan Hotman. I'm one of your instructional coaches in the Palmdale School District. And with everything we've been doing with this distance learning, it has been really difficult to get in the idea of using the iPad when it comes to running your Zoom meetings. So let's take a look. I'm going to open up Zoom and I'm going to sign in with my district account. And now I'm in. So it's going to ask me if I want access to my calendar. I'm going to say don't allow for right now. Do I want to use Zoom with Siri? No, I don't. And so from this part, it's going to look almost exactly like you would when you're on a desktop, or you might have seen in some screenshots that I've shared. So for example, the big buttons in the middle, if I want to start a new meeting instantly, I can hit new meeting and I can have the video on, or I can use my personal ID, either one. And if I hit start that meeting, it would instantly start my meeting. I can join a meeting. So if I have a colleague, or if I'm going to go into a PLC and they've given me an ID, I can type that in there. So if you remember, it's a 9-digit ID. If you notice, the join button then links up. On the bottom left, we have the schedule button. So if I want to schedule a meeting, so let's say I'm going to do a meeting today. So I'm going to call this my PLC. That starts today at noon. I can change the date if I want to. I can change the time. That's all down there. The duration. So if I'm going to do a 30-minute meeting, put that in there. Or 15, say 30. The time zone should say Pacific. We're not going to repeat this. Remember that whenever we repeat a meeting, we're leaving it open for students to share our link, and we really don't want to do that. The personal ID we're going to turn off. Again, the password is going to be up to you. I would completely understand why you would do that, but again, that's up to you. Let's see here. I would keep my video on, the participants' video off. Telephone and device audio should be both, and it is set for both. And then I enabled the waiting room. Some advanced options. I want to make sure that join before host is off. Allowed to join meeting. I want everyone, not just authenticated. I'm going to turn off recording the meeting right away because I will turn that on myself. And when I'm ready, I'll hit done. About sharing your screen. If you're going to share your screen directly, that will allow you to share directly into a meeting. We are probably not going to use that much, because you'll be sharing your screen during your meetings, not just on the spur of a moment. On the left-hand side, you have home button, so that takes you back to this screen. Any chats you might have open. Your scheduled meetings, there's my PLC right there in the middle. And then any contacts that you may have already inputted into Zoom. But let's take a look at the settings in the bottom left. So if you click on your name, I'll click on mine. There's the display name. I don't need to worry about department, job title, location. All these are ready to go, but there's the sign out button just in case. For meetings, here's a lot of our basic meetings that we would have set. Like always muting my microphone when I go in. I turn mine off because I'm usually hosting. Always turn off my video. I have off because again, I'm usually the one hosting. I want it on. The show video preview is when you first log in, so don't worry about that. Auto copy meeting link. So once you create your meeting, if this is on, it'll copy that link for you and you can paste it into Class Dojo, Remind, or Classroom. Show non-participant, non-video participants. I like to have that on. Some of our students won't have video. Show name when participants are joining. I want that on. Always show meeting controls. That one I'm going to turn off. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. To be honest, I don't know what it does, so we'll take a look. I don't have any synced calendars. I do have our meeting reminders set. I'm going to turn off closed captioning because, again, with closed captioning, you need to have someone typing and actually giving the closed captioning. Show my connected time. That part I don't worry about. Touch up my appearance. A lot of times I haven't shaved yet, so I want to make sure there I am. There, much better. I'll turn that one on. And then I'm not going to worry about reaction skin tone. So those are the meeting settings. Contacts, chat, those deal with the other buttons over on the left. Here's your general meetings. So the integrated calling, a lot of times you have a video you want to show, but that would be turned on. I don't want to do that because I'm using an iPad and it just isn't that big a deal. The other thing I will turn on is the blur the snapshot on task switcher. So when I switch tasks, when I double click on the iPad, it will, when I'm in a Zoom meeting, it will blur all the other windows that I have open. Again, we're not going to worry about integrated calling. So let me come back here to settings and Siri shortcuts we don't need to worry about. So now let's go into our meetings. All right, I have my Zoom app open and I'm about ready to start my meeting with my students. Just to let you know, you're going to see my hands swoop in because it is me tapping on my iPad because that's just sort of the way things work. Let me go ahead and get my meeting started with my kids. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the new meeting. Now, normally I would have this scheduled, but for our purposes right now, we're going to use a new meeting. So let me start that meeting. There I am. I'm going to call using internet audio. And now I'm going to go ahead and stop my video so that way you don't have to see me the whole time. Now that I'm waiting for my kids to come in, there's a couple things that I want to take care of before I even start. The first thing I want to do is come over to participants, and we'll talk more about that when it's time. But when I talk about participants, or when I use participants, I'm going to hit mute all. I get this pop-up that says allow participants to mute themselves. I want to turn that little check mark off and then mute all. So now as participants jump into the meeting with me, they won't find themselves being able to chit-chat during the meeting. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and get my student in, and I'm going to go ahead and have them join with video to start. But if you'll notice, the iPad is the name of the student, and we need to change that so we can either see them in the waiting room or admit them. There we go, even though the waiting room is already open. And I'm going to go ahead and admit them. They're in my meeting, and if you notice, they came in, I asked them to have their video off. I'm going to click on them, and I'm going to stop their video. But now I know who they are, so I'm going to go ahead and click on them, and I'm going to rename them. And so just like we can do on the desktop version, is I'm going to rename the student completely. This is student Danny, and I'm going to go ahead and say done. So you can see now he's changed. While we're in this participant area, let's go ahead and click on Danny. And you can see that there are some other choices to make in there as well. I can unmute his audio. So if Danny raises his hand, so if you notice that the student has now raised their hand, let me cancel that. There you go. So you see right there the little hand, he's raised his hand. I can unmute him and let him answer and then lower his hand. And you'll see that go away. Once he's done, I can let him mute, or I can mute him for him. I can chat with a student. I can make him a host. Never, ever, ever make him a host. I can put him in the waiting room. So watch the student side when I kick them out of my class. Oh, there they are. They're back in the waiting room. So let me go ahead and bring them back in. Maybe they've behaved, and I can bring them in. And just like before, there he is. And you heard the ding dong. Let me click on him again. Again, I can ask him to start his video. I can assign him a co-host. Again, never, ever, ever. I can rename him. So if I want to rename him something else, I can do that as well. Or I can remove him from my class altogether, but I don't want to do that because I want him in my class. We'll use that as the last result. We'll go over the rest of what the participants do when we get a little bit of a moment here. We'll talk about sharing their screen and everything like that. There's the start video button. So if I want to start my video, I'll just click on it. And there I am. There you see me on the student side. And if I want to unmute, I'm not going to do that because you'll get feedback. I can unmute myself here as well. So let's take a look at this More menu. In the More menu, I can do a couple things. Watch the student side. I can tell the student, thumbs up, good job. I can clap for them. Coming back to More, I can record to the cloud. Now, Palmdale School District is not paying for the cloud. It is just way too expensive. So you will not have the ability to record from the cloud. Some suggestions I've made is to use your cell phone and just record the audio portion of your meeting. That way you at least have an audio recording of your students and your interaction. But that's the best thing we have for you when it comes to the iPad or even the Chromebook. I can chat with my class. I'll go over the chat settings here in a second. I can go over through the meeting settings. That's what we're going to look at here in a bit. I can minimize the meetings. Let's say at the end of this meeting, I come out and I hit minimize the meeting. It then takes me back in and I can create the next meeting for my students and tell them, all right, y'all ready to go. Here is the meeting code for next time. Bring you back into the meeting. Go back to More. I can do my virtual background. So there I am. Down at the bottom, you will notice that you have all the different icons. So I'm going to choose just the Golden Gate Bridge. It's not the best, but you kind of get the idea of how it works. You can also add it from your camera drive. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off and close. Go back to the menu up here. And so now let's take a look at those meeting settings, because those will be a big deal for you when it's time to take your meeting. Again, I would do this before all your students come in. Meeting setting. Let's take a look at what those settings say. I can lock the meeting. That means once I lock it, no one can come in. And if someone leaves, they cannot return. I can turn on the waiting room, which in this case, it's already on. For the participants, I can allow them to share their screen. If you have 15, 20 of your students in your session, you're probably going to want to keep that off until it's time. Maybe you want 1 or 2 of your students to share. Chat with. I'm going to click on host. I can turn it off completely so no one can chat with anybody. I can change it to host only, or I can allow everyone to chit chat back and forth. I'm going to change it to host only. Let me come back into settings. Now it's confirmed. I can allow them to rename themselves. For me, I like this setting off because then the students can change their name. And I've actually heard of it where students are chit-chatting back and forth using the rename feature. So we'll go ahead and keep that one off. Meeting topic, I'm going to change that and we'll call this 5th period math. And now I can save that. Mute on entries already on. You heard the ding dong earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on in case someone else decides to join us. Scrolling down. Always show the meeting controls. So watch the controls at the very top. So watch these up there. If I turn that off, they disappear. And I lose everything. I'm going to bring them back. I want them there. I can allow the camera to touch up my appearance. My wife says I'm handsome enough. I don't need to touch up my appearance. Closed captioning is off. Remember that you have to have someone else designated to type out the closed captioning. So we're going to keep that off. Show name when participants join. We want that. Who is joining? That way we know who we need to change. Show my video in gallery view. I'm going to keep that one turned on. I'm going to show you gallery view, but basically gallery view is all your students in one spot. You can have your video as part of it. I like having it part of it. That's just me. Show my connected time. Again, that's up to you. So now that I'm done, here is the gallery view button up at the top right there. I'm going to go and turn it on. And now you can see, I see all my students. In this case, just the one student, Danny. If I want to go back to just the active speaker, I will do that. And just click that button again. On the bottom, you'll see down here all your students. If you hit that plus button, they will list all the way down at the bottom. And you can scroll that list if there's a whole lot of students all in at once. If you don't want to see them all, hit the little button on the top left again. And if you want all that to go away, hit that minus button and it will disappear. But in this case, I'm going to bring it back up. All right. The next button, my favorite button of all time, the share content button. You can share content with your students from your iPad. So it's the green button at the very top. Let me get zoomed in and get my camera pointed at it. There we go. So when I share content, I have some choices. I can share my screen, share my photos. I don't really use iCloud Drive, so I'm not going to worry about that. Google Drive, a website or URL. The bookmark is if I have a bookmark saved. I'm not going to use that one for this meeting, but if you already have a website that's saved, you can use that one as well. So I'm going to save the screen one for last because it's my favorite. So if I have a photo that I want to share with my students, maybe I'm sharing good things with them. Let me share maybe of one of my kids doing jiu-jitsu. I'm going to go ahead and hit done. And if you watch the student side, there's my picture. They see the same thing. If I want to zoom in on the video, you'll be able to see that zoom as well. So that's photos. Let me go ahead and stop that. Come back here to share. The next one I'm going to show is the Google Drive. I'm going to skip iCloud Drive because I don't really use my iCloud Drive. So let me go to Google Drive. For me, it takes a little bit to load because I have so much in my drive. So I'm going to give it a second here to load. All right, now that we're loaded, let me pick up on something to bring up to show. Let's see here. I've got a great one. So I will bring up the EduProtocols menu, and now I'm going to share this. And so this is just a Google drawing that I'm showing. If I want to zoom in on anything on math, I can zoom it in, and if you watch the student side, it as well gets zoomed in. Now the students can zoom in as well if you see that screen going in and out. I can move my screen to the other side. You'll see it move as well. Bring it all the way down. And then when I'm ready to stop, I'm going to hit that stop share button one more time. Let me share more content. Let me show you a website URL. So if I want to show www.palmdalesd.org, I'm going to go ahead and share that. And you'll notice on the student side, it will pop in as well. So I'm going to say, okay, got it. Learn from home. And there's the Learn from Home page, just like you would see if you went to the website. The students can see it as well. So that's a website, and wherever you go, the students will follow. So let me go to questions and answers. There we go, same thing. All right, let me stop that share. Now it's time for the big mamma jamma. My favorite one, my favorite feature in Zoom on the iPad, sharing the screen. So you're gonna get this pop-up. This is gonna be important. We wanna make sure that we start our broadcast. So when we do that, we're gonna hit start broadcast, and you'll see the countdown, and then it's gonna go white. I am now sharing everything on my screen. So let me see here, let me pull up a Google Note. So if you remember back to my iPad class, we talked about the idea that you can turn on some editing features. The first one's a pencil. Then we have the highlighter, a pen, the eraser. This is new, and I'm not sure if it's because of my iPad. And the ruler, again, that one is new as well. So it might be just because of my iPad. So I'm gonna pick the pencil, or I'm sorry, the marker. Let's go with green. Whatever I do on my screen, it pops up on the student side. If I want to highlight the answer, there's the highlight. Or if I need to erase, there's the erase button. So I could bring in something and I could work on it, maybe like a PDF, and actually annotate on it, just like we would do for Eureka Math or any one of our programs. Let me go ahead and hit done. So that's one thing you can do. Let's see here. Let's bring in Footsteps to Brilliance. If you're a lower grade teacher, you can use Footsteps to Brilliance with your kids. You can actually go in and show them how to enter in their super secret code or log in with their ID. I can close this out. And let me come back into Zoom. Or you can use ClassLink. Let me open up ClassLink. So with ClassLink, let's say I'm showing something in Benchmark. Let me go and sign in with Google and say okay. Just log in as myself. So now I'm logged into ClassLink. I'm going to go into my folder, which is curricular, and go into Benchmark. I'm going to give it a second for it to load. And now I'm in. So if I want to show something in Benchmark Advanced, grade 4, unit 8, maybe it's something out of the teacher resources, I can do that. And if you'll notice on the student side, it pops right in. When I'm done, I can go ahead and close out the app. And I'm going to come back into Zoom and I'm going to stop the broadcast. And if you'll notice the student side, it goes away. When I'm all done, I need to end my meeting. So up here on the top left, I have the choice of either leaving the meeting or ending the meeting. If I am all done with the meeting, whether the students have left or not, I want to click on End Meeting. And when I do that, it takes me back here and the student is done. So Zoom on the iPad really isn't that hard. It's just knowing where all the different features are and how to access them. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to one of your tech coaches. Have a great day.